Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am gone and I'll be telling you about one of the most terrifying things that has ever happened to me in my life. And it involves the new house, which, if you've been watching this series, you know we just bought a new house, and there's so many scary things that have been happening here. But this story I'm going to tell you today takes the cake. I swear to God. I am still terrified thinking about it. So let's just go right into it. I was getting ready for bed. The baby was asleep. The animals were asleep. It was late at night, and I decided I wanted to watch an episode of Criminal Minds. Before I went to bed, well, as some of you may or may not know, there's a rule I always go by, which is never watch Criminal Minds or any horror movie alone in a new place, because something always happens. It's like clockwork. Something will happen every single time. And you all have seen my videos, you've heard me talk about it. You probably think I'm crazy, but I truly believe there is some sort of entity that follows me around that makes these things happen when I watch those shows. Well, I watched an episode, and it was late, well past midnight. Now, I'll just describe what the show was for anyone who hasn't seen it. There was basically this group of people that had their whole entire lives documented online. They would vlog everything they did, and it was all uploaded online, and people would watch them, live their daily lives. Well, one day one of the girls from the group goes missing and her family goes to the police. But the police couldn't do anything because nothing really happened, She didn't get murdered or anything like that. She just disappeared. And then a few days later, her body turns up in this random guy's basement. He was living out in the woods. It was bizarre. And yeah, the episode was pretty scary, and obviously as I was watching it, I was sitting in bed with my door open because I usually sleep with my door open. I always slept with my door open my entire life, and I didn't feel like being scared, so I just kind of ignored it and kept watching. I finished the episode, and I was just laying there for a moment, and then I started hearing scratching noises, and I was like, oh my God, there's an animal in my attic again, right? Because we've had raccoons, squirrels, all kinds of stuff getting in the attic, making tons of noise. So I got up to investigate and turned on the light and looked around, and everything was fine, There was no animal in there. Then I went and closed the door to my room and locked it, turned off the lights, and went back to bed trying to ignore it. But then, as soon as I laid down and turned the TV off, I started hearing footsteps. And I don't mean like footsteps where it sounded like someone was walking up and down stairs. It was very distinct footsteps, like someone was walking directly above my ceiling. Like I know my house very well. I know where the joists are in my ceiling. I know exactly where everything is. I could tell there was somebody walking across the boards in my attic, directly above my ceiling. Obviously, I was freaked out. So I turned the light on and yelled really loud. And then I started hearing heavy footsteps running across the attic and then scrambling around. So I called my husband Dave, who was asleep at the time, and I was yelling and screaming, telling him that there was someone in the attic, and he just kind of laughed it off and told me to just go downstairs and check and see what was making the noise. And I said, no way I'm doing that, because I truly, truly believed that there was an intruder in the house, and I was absolutely petrified. Well, finally my husband got out of bed and came over to try to investigate. We stood there in my room, just listening to the commotion in the attic for a few minutes, and then we started hearing heavy footsteps coming down the stairs. Both of us were freaking out at this point, and then we started hearing heavy footsteps in the hallway outside of our bedroom. My husband and I just stood there staring at each other, terrified. We didn't know what to do. I don't think either one of us wanted to make a move, because we were so scared that whatever was up there was going to come in our room and attack us. Then my husband grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight and opened the door slowly and stuck his head out and looked around. And then he screamed and jumped back and knocked over his own footstool. He was like, there's a TV in the hallway. And I was like, what? Because that's not possible. There's no way. There's a TV in the hallway. The only TV in the hallway is the one we took out. The reason we moved in, we literally took out that TV and put it in storage. He was like, let's go check the closet and see if it's in there. So we opened the closet and there was no TV in there. Then we started hearing more footsteps in the hallway and we were like, okay, now what? So he took the flashlight and started looking all around the room. And he found another closet that we haven't even opened yet. We were removing boxes out of the way, and he looked behind a box and the wall, and he was like, oh my God, here's the TV. But it wasn't just the TV. It was showing something on the TV. I'll never forget this image. It was late at night. The room was dark. The only light in the room was my husband's flashlight, and what was on the TV was a staticky black and white image of a room. It was clearly a room, but it wasn't our room. It wasn't the room we were standing in. It was a different room that I had never seen in my life. It was a gray room with a gray carpeted floor and gray walls, and there was a window in the corner and the curtains were drawn. And that was all we could see. All of a sudden, this black and white image just turned color, and the curtains in the room moved, and my husband and I started screaming bloody murder. Of course, at this point, we called 911 and told them that we needed help, that we thought our house was haunted or something. And then while I was on the phone with the operator, the power went out and it was pitch black. I was just like, nope, 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 not doing this. I'm getting out of here. So I got out of the house and got in my car and waited for the cops to get there. When the cops showed up, my husband explained to them what was going on, and they told us that there was no power outage in the area. And then they started asking us questions, and they were like, "Do you guys have any enemies? Is there anybody who would want to break into your house and mess with you?" We were like, "No, why would you ask that?" And they were like, "Well, it looks like somebody broke into your house and messed with you." But we didn't think that was funny. We were seriously scared. Thought somebody had broken in and was messing with us. They checked all the windows and doors, and everything was locked. And there was no signs of forced entry. And they couldn't figure out how someone would have gotten in the house and turned the TV on and made it show that particular channel, which ended up being a local channel. And they couldn't figure out how someone would have gotten in and turned the lights on and off and made the TV turn off and on and change the channel. And then they asked us if we had a landline, and we said, yes, we do. They were like, okay, well, someone's messing with you. It was a prank call. Somebody must have called the house and used the caller ID to make it look like it was your number, and then they just messed with you. We don't have kids. We don't have anybody who could have done this to us. We don't know any teenagers who would have done that. And none of our friends are that crazy. We don't even know any of our neighbors yet. Nobody would have known that we moved in. How would someone have known that we would be home at that particular time and decide to mess with us? The cops left, and my husband and I were like, okay, this is freaky, but I guess it was just a prank call. And then we tried to go back to sleep, but obviously we couldn't. And then in the middle of the night, we started hearing footsteps again, and we both just kind of looked at each other and were like, nope, we're not staying here. So we got in the car and drove to my parents' house and stayed there for the rest of the night. In the morning, we came back and checked everything out, and there was no damage to the house. Every single window and door was locked. Everything was fine, and the only thing we could think of was maybe their S, a signal in the house somewhere. That S, picking up a random TV channel, you know, some sort of radio frequency or something. We have no idea. To this day, we have no idea what it was, but it terrified me so much that I'm still too afraid to sleep in that room. And we've been living in the house for 3 months. If you guys want to hear other scary stories that have happened in the house, comment below and I'll post another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.